My brother stalked and assaulted my girlfriend. At a wedding, my parents took his side. Now he is serving time for domestic violence. The moment Olivia, my 23-year-old girlfriend, walked through the door, Ethan's behavior took a turn for the worse. His actions were so inappropriate that she was visibly uncomfortable. He practically shoved our mother aside just to be the first to hug Olivia, clinging to her far too long until she had to physically step away. During dinner, he constantly found excuses to touch her arm or shoulder, laughing at so-called inside jokes that made no sense, considering they had only just met. He repeatedly forced his way past me just to sit next to her, and eventually, he went way over the line, offering her food from his own fork while locking eyes with her in an unsettling way. Though clearly uneasy, Olivia remained polite, wanting to make a good impression since this was our first official gathering with my family. Meanwhile, Ethan spent the evening dredging up embarrassing childhood stories about me, twisting them to make me look pathetic. Then he told a complete lie, claiming he had once rescued my high school girlfriend from my supposed emotional abuse, an event that never happened. Olivia knew better because I'd already told her the truth about my teenage years, but my parents just sat there, nodding along as if Ethan's words were gospel. After dinner, things took an even darker turn. Wanted to be helpful, Olivia offered to clean up. While she was in the kitchen, I was out in the garage with my dad, moving some boxes when I suddenly realized I had not seen her in a while. When I went to check, I found her trapped. Ethan had positioned himself in front of the door, blocking her way out. He had her backed against the sink, standing too close, one hand braced on the counter near her hip. He was leaning in, telling her she deserved someone more exciting than his boring, unstable older brother. Olivia had already told him to back off twice before I walked in. The moment she saw me, she looked relieved and immediately rushed to my side. Ethan just laughed, playing it off like it was all some big joke. But I could feel Olivia shaking. Olivia and I had been together for 8 months, and everything had been perfect, until Ethan fixated on her and decided to destroy our lives with his obsessive behavior. To really understand what happened, I need to explain our family dynamic. Ethan and I grew up in an upper-middle-class household in a small Minnesota town. Our parents, both real estate agents, made good money, but their main concern was maintaining a perfect public image rather than fostering meaningful family connections. Ethan was born 3 years after me, and from the moment he arrived, he became their entire world. In their eyes, he could do no wrong, and somehow, everything bad that happened was always my fault. Even as a kid, he displayed some alarming tendencies, but my parents either ignored them or made excuses. At 6 years old, he smashed my gaming console just because I would not let him play when he demanded. Instead of punishing him, our parents rewarded him with his own and told me I should have been more generous. When he was 12, he fed my pet hamster chocolate, fully aware it was toxic. My parents brushed it off as an accident and blamed me for not watching my pet closely enough. In high school, he spread false rumors that I had cheated on my girlfriend, which led to our breakup. My parents? They defended him, saying he was just looking out for her. This pattern continued into adulthood. Ethan still lives at home, working at our father's real estate office, enjoying a free ride. Meanwhile, he has done everything in his power to sabotage every relationship I have ever had. With my last girlfriend before Olivia, he somehow convinced her family that I had a gambling addiction. Completely untrue. Before that, he told another girl I had cheated on every past girlfriend I had. Another blatant lie. Each time, my parents either dismissed my concerns or told me I was overreacting. So when I met Olivia, I decided to handle things differently. For the first 3 months, I kept our relationship a secret from my family, wanting to shield her from Ethan's usual tactics. Olivia is the best thing that has ever happened to me. She is brilliant, compassionate, and works as a pediatric nurse at our local hospital. We met in the hospital cafe while I was grabbing coffee during a visit to a coworker who had undergone surgery. She was on her lunch break, and we bonded over how awful the hospital coffee was. After a few more chance meetings, we started dating, and everything just felt right. Because of my history with my family, I told Olivia everything up front. She knew exactly what I had dealt with growing up. Still, she encouraged me to give them a chance, believing that now that we were adults, things might be different. She always tries to see the good in people. It is one of the things I love most about her. I finally agreed to introduce her at a family dinner last month. That night marked the beginning of everything falling apart. The real nightmare started a few days later. Olivia began receiving strange calls and texts from unknown numbers. At first, they were just heavy breathing or hang-ups. Then came the voicemails, creepy messages calling her stuck up and frigid for rejecting a better option. Some even referenced what she had been wearing that day or details about her work schedule, proving that someone had been watching her. At first, she did not make the connection, but I recognized some of the voices. They belonged to Ethan's old high school friends, a group of guys who still followed him around, mostly because his parents funded his reckless lifestyle. When Olivia blocked the numbers, they started using new ones. Then they escalated. Ethan's friends began loitering at the hospital, pretending to be visitors, but lingering around the pediatric ward where she worked. They would watch her for hours, making comments just loud enough for her to hear. Last week, one of them followed her to her car after a late-night shift. She was so terrified that she called me, sobbing, too afraid to drive in case they were still watching. I had to pick her up myself and drive her car home while a friend of mine followed behind us to make sure we were not being tailed. Olivia has been so anxious that she started having panic attacks before her shifts. Even her coworkers have noticed that something is wrong. Yesterday, I finally had enough proof. It was time to confront Ethan directly. I had everything I needed: recordings of the voicemails, screenshots of the threatening messages, and security footage from the hospital showing his friends stalking Olivia. Armed with all of it, I drove straight to my parents' house, where Ethan still lived, and laid it all out in front of him. He just sat there, smirking like none of it mattered. When I finished, he met my eyes and, without a hint of shame, said he had no idea what I was talking about. Then, with that same smug expression, he added that maybe if Olivia was not such a stuck-up bitch, people would not feel the need to teach her a lesson. Something inside me snapped. I punched him square in the face. Ethan immediately collapsed into a dramatic wail, carrying on as if I tried to kill him, even though all he had was a bloody nose. Our parents came running, and predictably, they lost their minds, but not at him. They did not even glance at the evidence I was holding. My mother went into full hysteria over her poor baby being attacked, while my father exploded, shouting about how I had always been jealous of Ethan and needed professional help for my supposed anger issues. When I tried to explain what had been happening, my mother actually had the audacity to suggest that Olivia must have led Ethan on at dinner and was only playing the victim because she got caught flirting with him. My father cut me off, telling me to get out and not come back until I apologized to Ethan and got my head straight. Now, I'm sitting in Olivia's apartment, where I have been since last night. She finally cried herself to sleep in the other room after hours of fear and stress, dreading having to go to work tomorrow. Her supervisor has been understanding so far, but Olivia is terrified that if this keeps escalating, she might lose her job. She loves working with the kids in the pediatric ward. She should not have to give that up just because my psychotic brother decided to fixate on her. I feel completely lost. Every time I think Ethan cannot possibly sink any lower, he proves me wrong. And my parents? They are enabling him every step of the way, gaslighting both Olivia and me about everything that has been happening. The police will not take action without undeniable proof linking Ethan directly to the harassment. Meanwhile, Olivia is living in constant fear, her job is at risk, and my family is acting like we are the ones causing problems. We went to the police. We spent hours compiling all the evidence, screenshots of every threatening message, recordings of the voicemails, security footage showing Ethan's friends lurking around the hospital. On top of that, 3 of Olivia's co-workers provided written statements confirming they had witnessed the stalking firsthand. At first, the officer we spoke with seemed genuinely concerned, especially about the workplace harassment. But then things took a turn. As soon as we mentioned names, everything changed. One of Ethan's main accomplices, his best friend Tyler, is the son of a local police sergeant. The moment we brought up Tyler, the officer's demeanor shifted completely. Suddenly, he was saying there was not enough proof that Ethan was orchestrating the harassment. He even had the nerve to suggest that maybe Olivia was misinterpreting friendly attention from guys who were just hanging around the hospital for innocent reasons. Then, as if that was not insulting enough, he straight up asked if Olivia might have encouraged their attention somehow. We asked to speak with a different officer, preferably a female officer, but they gave us the runaround. In the end, they said the best they could do was issue warnings to the people we could identify from the security footage, but that was it. No actual charges, no real consequences. It felt like an absolute waste of time. If the police response was frustrating, my parents' reaction was downright infuriating. The day after we went to the police, Ethan showed up at their house with a black eye, claiming I had attacked him again. I had not even seen him since the night I punched him 2 weeks ago, but my parents did not hesitate for a second. They believed him completely. My mom called me in tears, sobbing about how I was out of control and trying to ruin Ethan's life. She said that going to the police just proved I was deliberately trying to destroy his future over a harmless misunderstanding. Then my dad called, and he was furious. He threatened to cut me off financially, something that would have been terrifying if I had ever actually relied on them. Thankfully, I have a solid job in software development and my own apartment. But the way he said it made me realize something. He still thinks he has control over me. He also threatened to fire me from the family business, which was especially hilarious considering I've never worked there. That has always been Ethan's job. It was a perfect example of how they do not even see me as my own person, just an afterthought in Ethan's life. But the worst part? That came last weekend. After days of relentless calls and texts, my mother insisted that they wanted to make things right as a family. She swore up and down that Ethan was sorry for everything and wanted to apologize to both me and Olivia. She claimed they had talked to him about boundaries, and he finally understood that his behavior was inappropriate. She just wanted one dinner, one chance for everyone to clear the air. Olivia and I talked it over, and, against our better judgment, we decided to give them a chance. That was a massive mistake. The moment we stepped into my parents' house, I knew something was off. Instead of an intimate family dinner, the house was packed with people. My parents, Ethan, our aunt and uncle, who always take a side, and worst of all, Tyler and 2 of the other guys who had been harassing Olivia at the hospital. My mother smiled like nothing was wrong and called it a family intervention. For the next 2 hours, they all took turns tearing Olivia apart, while Ethan sat there, smug as ever. My mother launched into this delusional rant about how Olivia was obviously jealous of Ethan's good looks and success. What success exactly? And had been flirting with him at that first dinner. My mother insisted that Olivia was making everything up to cover her guilt for leading Ethan on. My aunt chimed in, suggesting that Olivia was just used to male attention at work and had misread harmless friendliness as harassment because of a guilty conscience. Ethan, of course, played his role flawlessly, acting heartbroken and confused about why Olivia would tell such awful lies about him. He kept saying things like how excited he had been to have her as a sister-in-law and how devastated he was that she had turned me against him. Tyler and his friends backed him up completely, swearing that they had only been at the hospital because they were visiting Tyler's sick grandmother, who, conveniently, seemed to move between different floors and apartments every single day. The worst part? They started attacking Olivia's mental stability. They pointed out that she sometimes works night shifts, suggesting that sleep deprivation might be making her paranoid. Then they talked about how stressful it must be working with sick children, implying that she was projecting her work stress onto innocent interactions with Ethan and his friends. My mother even had the nerve to recommend a therapist who could help Olivia work through her tendency to create drama. At first, Olivia tried to stay calm, explaining the harassment again and showing them the texts and voicemails. But they either dismissed the evidence outright or twisted it, making it seem like she had somehow provoked everything. Then Tyler made things crystal clear. He started describing in disturbingly accurate detail what Olivia had been wearing on specific days at work, proof that he had, without a doubt, been stalking her. And yet, instead of recognizing how creepy that was, my parents treated it as if it was proof that Olivia had been trying to get attention. That was the breaking point. When my mother invited Tyler and his friends to stay for dessert, saying she wanted to show us what nice young men they really were, Olivia started having trouble breathing. She got up and left the room. I went to follow her, but my mother grabbed my arm. "It's time for you to choose," she said. "Your real family or this girl who's obviously unstable and trying to cause problems." "I chose Olivia." We walked out, and I have not spoken to my parents since that night. Ethan's friends have only gotten more aggressive since then. Now, they have started spreading rumors at Olivia's workplace, telling people she is mentally unstable and has a history of making false accusations. Yesterday, her supervisor called her in for a meeting. While he seemed sympathetic, he warned her that all the drama was starting to impact her job performance. He even suggested that maybe she should consider transferring to another department or hospital. We have hired a lawyer to help us get restraining orders, but the process is slow. Meanwhile, Olivia has been looking at job openings elsewhere, and a former colleague has offered to help her get a position at a hospital about 300 miles away. I hate that it has come to this. I hate that we are being forced to uproot our lives just because my brother is a psychopath and my family refuses to see it. But more than anything, I hate seeing Olivia like this. She cries before every shift. She barely eats because her anxiety is through the roof. She is exhausted, worn down, and constantly looking over her shoulder. Every attempt to handle this reasonably has backfired. The police are useless. My family is delusional, and it feels like Ethan is winning. But what happened next goes beyond all boundaries. After what happened at my cousin Chloe's wedding last weekend, there is no coming back from this. What was supposed to be a happy family celebration turned into a complete nightmare. One that ended with Ethan in handcuffs and my family permanently divided. Some background. Chloe has always been one of the only family members, besides my grandfather, who saw through Ethan's act. When we were kids, she caught him torturing her cat and told everyone, but my parents convinced the rest of the family that she was just making it up for attention. She never forgot that. And through this whole situation with Olivia, she's been firmly on my side. She even wrote a detailed statement for our lawyer documenting Ethan's history of disturbing behavior. When Chloe invited us to her wedding, Olivia and I were hesitant. But Chloe called us personally and promised that she had only invited Ethan because her parents insisted. She had even hired extra security specifically to keep an eye on him. She also made sure we were seated at a table with her husband's family, far away from my parents and Ethan. With all the witnesses around, with security present, we thought Ethan would not dare try anything. We were wrong. The ceremony went smoothly, mostly because Ethan was busy playing the role of a groomsman. Chloe's husband, Jackson, is our cousin from the other side of the family and had no idea about any of the drama. At the reception, things seemed fine at first. Ethan stayed at the family table with our parents while we sat with Chloe's in-laws. Olivia was finally starting to relax, smiling, laughing, actually enjoying herself for the first time in weeks. Then, around 7 p.m., she went to use the bathroom. She had been gone for about 10 minutes when I noticed something. Ethan was no longer at his table. Something felt off. I got up to check on Olivia, and just as I was heading toward the bathrooms, I heard her scream. I ran. At the same time, Jackson and his brother turned the corner ahead of me. They found Ethan pinning Olivia against the wall in the hallway outside the bathrooms. One hand was clamped over her mouth. The other was gripping her arms so tightly that it left bruises. She was struggling, but he was bigger, stronger, and clearly intoxicated. Jackson and his brother ripped him off her just as I reached them. Olivia was shaking, crying, her dress torn at the shoulder, fresh bruises already forming on her arms. Ethan, slurring and furious, started shouting about how Olivia had been teasing him all night. She had not even looked at him, and how she had followed him into the hallway. She had been there first. Jackson's brother, who happens to be a cop from another city, immediately called the local police. Meanwhile, Jackson helped Olivia into a private room where Chloe and her mom tried to calm her down. And just when I thought things could not get worse, they did. When the police arrived, my parents tried to stop them from arresting Ethan. My mother was hysterical, screaming at the officers that it was all a misunderstanding. She insisted that Olivia must have led Ethan on, that they could not ruin his life over a little drunken mistake. My father took it even further. He physically tried to stop the officers from handcuffing Ethan, demanding that they handle this as a family matter. As for Ethan, he bounced between sobbing about how Olivia had seduced him and making outright threats, warning everyone that we had no idea what he was capable of. He looked completely unhinged. When they finally put him in the police car, he started screaming that Olivia was a slut, that she had been asking for it from the moment they met. Several wedding guests had their phones out, recording the entire meltdown. The fallout has been brutal. My parents are on a warpath, calling every relative they can, spreading their version of events. According to them, Olivia lured Ethan into a secluded area, made advances on him, and then screamed assault when he rejected her. They're saying she orchestrated the whole thing to get revenge for him, exposing her lies about the harassment. They have even gone so far as to claim that Jackson and his brother roughed Ethan up before the police arrived. They did not, and that Olivia somehow gave herself the bruises. But there is one silver lining. Chloe's wedding videographer caught Ethan following Olivia to the bathroom on camera. Between that, the bruises, multiple witnesses, and the footage of Ethan's unhinged rant during his arrest, our lawyer says we have a solid case. Several relatives who were at the wedding have come forward with statements about Ethan's behavior that night. including him making disgusting comments about Olivia and following her around the reception. Now, my parents are threatening to disown me if Olivia does not drop the charges. They have been calling and texting nonstop, alternating between guilt-tripping me for destroying the family and threatening to cut me off financially. My father even warned that he would make sure I never worked in this state again. Yesterday, they took it a step further. They showed up at my apartment, banging on the door and screaming so loudly that my neighbors called the police. My mother was wailing about how I was sending her baby to jail, while my father made more threats. Enough is enough. Olivia and I have made our decision. She has accepted the job offer at the hospital 300 miles away. I have arranged to work remotely for my company. We are leaving at the end of next month. Some people might see it as running away, but we see it as survival. We just need to get away from all this toxicity and start fresh. Chloe understands. She has promised to keep us updated on any family developments we actually need to know about. The hardest part in all of this is accepting that my family will never admit the truth. Even after watching Ethan assault someone in front of dozens of witnesses, they are still defending him, still blaming the victim. I cannot help but wonder if things would have been different if someone had stepped in when we were kids. But I guess we will never know. Right now, my only focus is on protecting Olivia and building a life far away from Ethan and my parents' enabling. Update 1. I never planned on posting update. For the past 4 years, my life has been peaceful. I had no intention of letting my family disrupt that again. But yesterday, I got a phone call that left me feeling both vindicated and deeply sad. First, a quick update on where Olivia and I are now. We got married 2 years ago in a small ceremony with Chloe's family and Olivia's relatives. We bought a house in our new city. Olivia is now the head pediatric nurse at her hospital. I still work remotely for the same company and was promoted to senior developer last year. We are expecting our first child, a little girl, in 3 months. Life has been good, peaceful, happy. And then, yesterday afternoon, my phone started blowing up with calls from my mother. Normally, I ignore unknown numbers because my family has a habit of getting new phones to bypass my blocks. But this time, she left a voicemail, and she sounded desperate. When I called back, she was crying so hard I could barely understand her. It turns out Ethan got married last year. Her name is Sophia. None of us knew about it because we cut contact with that side of the family after the wedding incident. According to my mother, Ethan met Sophia at church, and their families arranged the marriage quickly. My mother babbled about how perfect everything was, how Ethan had finally found a good Christian woman who understood him, and how they had all been so happy. Until last week. Last Thursday, Sophia's coworker called the police after she missed 3 days of work. Officers went to do a welfare check and found Sophia badly injured. 2 broken ribs, a fractured wrist, bruises all over her body. But here's the part that really got me. When the police started investigating, they found out my father had been helping Ethan cover up the abuse for months. Sophia finally broke down and told them everything. Ethan started hitting her just 2 months into their marriage. And every time she threatened to leave or tell someone, my father stepped in. Using his connections in real estate, he pressured Sophia's family by threatening their mortgage. If that did not work, he used his business contacts to make sure she could lose her job at any time. He made sure she had nowhere to go, no one to turn to, just like he had done with me, just like he had done with everyone who had ever tried to expose Ethan. Ethan's manipulation ran deep. He even convinced Sophia's parents that she was mentally unstable, that she was making up stories about him, using the same gaslighting tactics my parents had tried with Olivia. The final straw came when Sophia received a promotion at work. The raise would have given her the financial independence to leave. Ethan lost it. He beat her so badly that she physically could not go to work. Desperate, she called my father for help. His response? Put some ice on it and remember your wedding vows. That was the moment Sophia's co-worker stepped in and called the police. Both Ethan and my father were arrested. Ethan for domestic violence, and my father for witness intimidation and conspiracy. My mother wanted me to come back and help the family deal with the fallout. She kept repeating that family needed to stick together in times of crisis. She insisted that Ethan and my father needed my support and that Sophia was obviously exaggerating, just like Olivia had. That was it. I snapped. I told her exactly how I felt about her, enabling Ethan his entire life. I reminded her of everything they had done to Olivia, how they had chosen to stand by Ethan even after watching him assault someone in front of an entire wedding. Then I asked her a question I knew she could not answer. Had she ever once considered that if they had gotten Ethan help when he was younger, or actually held him accountable, maybe Sophia would not be in hospital right now? That broke her. She started sobbing, finally admitting that they had always known Ethan had problems, but convinced themselves that covering for him was protecting him. Too little, too late. I hung up and blocked her new number. Later, Chloe called to fill me in on more details. Sophia's parents were devastated. They felt horrible for not believing her sooner and were now fully supporting her decision to press charges against both Ethan and my father. The police were also investigating other potential victims. Several of Ethan's ex-girlfriends had come forward with similar stories: abuse, stalking, threats. Olivia suggested we reach out to Sophia through Chloe, just to let her know we were there if she needed support. She reminded me how lucky she had been to have people in her corner when she went through this, and Sophia might need that too. So people might think I'm being cold toward my parents. But I have learned that enabling toxic behavior only creates more victims. My family had endless chances to change. They chose not to. Now, they can deal with the consequences of those choices without me. My priority is my own family, my wife, our unborn daughter, and the peaceful life we have built far away from their toxicity. Update 2. A lot of people have been reaching out, asking for an update about Ethan, my father, and Sophia. So here is what has happened in the last 6 months. First, the good news. Olivia and I welcomed our daughter, Ava, 3 months ago. She is perfect, healthy, beautiful. Becoming parents has been incredible, and it has only reinforced that cutting off my toxic family was the best decision we could have made. Chloe and her husband visited last month to meet Ava. Watching them with her just solidified what real family looks like. Now, for the updates on Ethan and my father's cases. Ethan took a plea deal last month. 8 years in prison for aggravated domestic violence. He will be eligible for parole after 5. My father's case is still ongoing. His lawyers are trying to negotiate a deal, but things do not look great for him. His real estate license has been suspended, and most of his business partners have cut ties with him. But the biggest surprise? My mother. After our last phone call, she started therapy. According to Chloe, she has moved out of the family home and filed for divorce. Last week, she sent me a 12-page letter. In it, she apologized for everything, enabling Ethan, failing to protect me when we were kids, and, most of all, how she and my father treated Olivia. She admitted that they created the monster Ethan became by never holding him accountable. I have not responded yet. Where was this awareness when Ethan was torturing animals as a kid? When he was stalking Olivia? When they stood there and watched him assault her at a wedding? Olivia and I are discussing whether we might allow my mother a supervised relationship with Ava someday. But if it happens at all, it is years away. Sophia has been in touch with us through Chloe. She is doing better, living with her sister in another state, going through intensive therapy. She has filed for divorce and is fully cooperating with prosecutors. And it turns out she was not the only one. Several other women, including 2 from Ethan's church, have come forward with similar stories. The police are investigating those cases now. Sophia's parents, to their credit, have stepped up. They have publicly apologized to her for not believing her. They have cut all ties with my parents and are now working with domestic violence organizations to help other families recognize the signs of abuse and manipulation. As for the rest of the family, they are split down the middle. Most of the younger generation, my cousins, younger aunts and uncles, have sided with Sophia and me. The older generation, still making excuses for Ethan and my father. Chloe's mom, my aunt, has actually started a family therapy group for those who want to understand how things got this bad and how to break the cycle for the next generation. But for me, I'm focusing on my daughter, my wife, my life. Olivia went back to work part-time last week, and she has been promoted to director of pediatric nursing. I am still working remotely, but I am considering starting my own software consulting business. We have built a wonderful life here, surrounded by good friends, our chosen family. Sometimes, I think about responding to my mother's letter, but then I look at Ava, and I think about how, if I had stayed in contact with my parents, they would have expected me to let Ethan around her. They would have insisted that he deserved another chance. That thought alone confirms we made the right choice. The cycle of abuse and enabling in my family ends with me. Ava will grow up in a home where she is safe, surrounded by people who respect boundaries. Sometimes the best thing you can do for your kids is cut off the people who refuse to change, even if it hurts.